LeMaster. Welcome again to my Common Sense Living podcast, where I'm going to add value to your life. So get a pen and paper. This is going to be an interesting story about our youth. So let's get started. Toddler obesity is on the rise. So story at a glance is the downward trend from 2010 to 2020. And the ethnic groups were even higher. Severe early onset obesity linked with earlier and more severe chronic disease risk. Duke University School of Medicine researchers describe severe obesity in toddlers as a canary in the coal mine for the health of future generations, and top infant formulas are made largely of corn syrup and are associated with increased obesity risk in the first 5 years of life. Breastfeeding is associated with a decreased risk of obesity. I do wish that people would understand the importance of breastfeeding. Look at Mother Nature. Do they go and drink something else? No, they drink from the mother's milk, okay? Us Americans seem to think we're so enlightened with knowledge and so upper, and some of these indigenous nations, I was in Haiti, and the women there breastfed. And it is so, Cuba the same way. Cuba, their medical system. Okay, there's the doctor in your borough. Okay, so your southwest side of town, northwest, whatever, the boroughs. So you have a doctor for that borough and the nurse. The doctor lives in the clinic and the nurse lives nearby. She is responsible for every person in the house in her borough. If something happens to a baby, oh boy, it comes down on her, because what did she not do? Because if the mother-to-be is having an issue, they have a home hospital where they put the mother to make sure that she has a successful pregnancy. And then, of course, it's the breastfeeding so that they get the nutrients and the start in life that they should. But Americans, oh no, we're going to feed them corn syrup. Come on, genetically modified corn syrup. So, I'm sorry, I'm old school. Hey, I'm 74. I'm proud of it. I'm 74 and aging younger because that's what I believe. I think about, and I can see my wrinkles. I don't like the lighting, but hey, every wrinkle represents something that I have survived. Okay, so anyway, let's get on with it. Oh, one more story before I get on with it. I was at an event, where they have little knickknacks and stuff like that. And I saw these two ladies, and they were really large. And some of us look like that, some of us don't. And that's their choice. But I saw the little toddler with them that I thought was maybe no more than 3 or 4 years old. And the poor little thing was so obese, downright fat. It was fat, but it was so fat. It's like the skin was just ready to burst. I felt so sorry for that child. What life does it have beginning like that? When I grew up in the 50s, you were skinny, but we were healthy. So with that, all right, if you haven't hung up by now, hang in there. Severe obesity among children aged 2 to 4 years old, this is on toddler obesity, is on the rise, was on a downward trend, decreasing from 2.1% in 2010 to 1.8% in 2016. But research published in Pediatrics shows the trend is on the rise once again, with severe obesity reaching 2% among this toddler age group in 2020. Among certain states and ethnic groups, rates were even higher. Prevalence of severe obesity among 2 to 4-year-olds reached 2.8% in California, as well as in Hispanic children. We were doing well, and now we see this upward trend, study author Heidi Blank of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention told the AP. We are dismayed at seeing these findings. Severe obesity in toddlers is a canary in a coal mine for future generations. In the U.S., 1 in 5 children and adolescents is obese. Among 2 to 19-year-olds, the prevalence of obesity was 19.7% from 2017 to 2020, or 14%, or 14.7 million individuals affected. Early obesity is strongly predictive of obesity in later life, with 90% of children who are obese at age 3 still obese in adolescence. Obesity in children raises the risk of many health conditions, including high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, asthma, sleep apnea, joint problems, and gallbladder disease. It also takes a mental toll and is associated with an increased risk of anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, social problems, and lower quality of life. Severe obesity is particularly troubling, however, as severe early onset obesity is linked with earlier and more severe chronic disease risk, including high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, prediabetes, and early mortality. Even when compared with moderately obese children, those with severe obesity are at a greater risk of health problems such as heart disease, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, premature death. In a commentary, Duke University of Medical Researchers described severe obesity in toddlers as a canary in the coal mine for the health of future generations. Severe obesity is different than milder forms of overweight and obesity. Thus, these new data showing a reversal of previous progress with an increase in severe obesity in children aged 2 to 4 years is a cause for great concern for policymakers, clinicians, and public health professionals. NFLD, or NFLD, is a health emergency in children. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease affects 32.4% of people globally, and it's the most common cause of liver transplant in adults under the age of 50. NFLD also affects up to 9.6% of American children aged 2 to 19, making it as common as asthma. In 15 to 19-year-olds, prevalence as high as 17.3%. As reported in a March 2021 paper on pediatric NFLD, obesity is a driving force behind NFLD in children. The largest risk factor for NFLD is obesity. Obesity and NFLD in children are often associated. However, they are not concomitant. In a 2019 study in 408 children with obesity using whole liver magnetic resonance imaging, proton density fat fraction, the prevalence rate of NFLD was 26.0%, or roughly 1 of every 4 children. In the Teen Lab study of adolescents with obesity severe enough to warrant weight loss surgery, the prevalence rate of NFLD was higher than 59%. The dramatic rise in NFLD in early 2020 may in part be due to the COVID lockdowns, which had the effect of raising childhood obesity rates by 8.3 to 13.4%, depending on the age group. The pediatric study also cited the COVID-19 pandemic as having detrimental effects on children's health. Although our study did not capture data during the COVID pandemic, it is important to acknowledge the substantial impact of the pandemic on the daily routines of children and adolescents. The pandemic has introduced various challenges, including reduced opportunities for physical activity, increased sedentary behaviors, limited access to healthy food, and heightened stress levels within households. These factors can have significant implications for weight gain, particularly among children with excessive weight, and may potentially influence future trend in severe obesity. So why are many toddlers severely obese? The study involved data from 16.6 million 2 to 4-year-old children enrolled in the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, the WIC program, from 2010 to 2020. While the study authors suggested the increase is likely influenced by a complex interplay of various factors, citing levels of state social resources, funding to local WIC agencies, and implementation of WIC benefits, such as breastfeeding support and nutrition counseling, separate research identified 4 factors that, when combined, account for 42.9% of childhood obesity by age 4.5 years. This includes lower food security during infancy, more than 1 hour a day of screen time at age 2, sleeping 11.5 hours or less per night at age 2, weekly to daily consumption of fast food and soda at age 2. Where's the responsibility, parents? According to the study authors, among children with no modifiable risk factors present, the prevalence of obesity was 4.4 versus 20.7% when all 4 risk factors were present. Our findings highlight the importance of considering the impact of exposure to risk factors for obesity in early childhood, not just in isolation, but together and cumulatively. Among children in the WIC program, food insecurity could be a contributing factor. The Duke University researchers pointed out that although it seems paradoxical that decreased access to food would increase obesity, multiple studies confirm this association. A proposed explanation is that food insecurity leads to financial trade-offs with basic needs like housing, forcing the purchase of cheaper foods that tend to be energy-dense but with low nutritional value. That being said, U.S. data similarly suggests that 2.5% of preschool-age children are severely obese, which includes those not affected by food insecurity. So there are likely other key factors at play. So here I have a label. Corn syrup is the main ingredient in many infant formulas. And this is a Ross Products Division, Abbott Laboratories, Columbus, Ohio, in the United States. And ingredients, first thing in it is 42.6% corn syrup solids, 14.7% soy protein isolate, 11.5% of high oleic safflower oil, 10.1% sugar sucrose, and pretty bad. I don't have to go on, do I? Despite the fact that breast milk is the healthiest food for babies, only 62.6% of U.S. infants are exclusively breastfed immediately following birth. By 6 months of age, only 24.9% are exclusively breastfed. This means most babies are fed formula, which is a highly processed food product made largely from corn syrup, as I just noted to you, vegetable oils, and sugar. You can see the ingredients for yourself in the above label, which I mentioned a few of them, which is from one of the top recommended infant formulas in the U.S. Are you or someone you know dealing with blood sugar issues like diabetes? You can lower, even reverse these issues. I lowered my A1C from 5.9 to 4.9 in just 6 weeks. My doctor was impressed. I'm a nurse, certified health coach, and educator. Gift yourself or another with this course, Taming Diabetes Differently. Change your life and theirs. Contact LeMaster at tamingdiabetes@yahoo.com or call 972-948-9976 and be sure to leave a message. I give gratitude and thanks to my mother. I was breastfed for 9 months. So anyway, I understand the economics and the jobs don't let you have as much time off and stuff like that. And in the past, that was certainly a sure thing. But now, I don't know about presently, but since I was born, employers, I'd say since the 60s anyway, employers have been more involved in the welfare of their employees and therefore the infants. So anyway, not surprisingly, feeding infant formula may be driving obesity and other health risks in infants and toddlers. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that infant formula made with corn syrup solids is associated with increased obesity risk in the first 5 years of life in a dose-dependent manner. These sweetened formulas may also cause children to develop greater food fussiness, indirectly influencing obesity risk by shaping taste preferences early on. While infant formula is designed to provide all the necessary nutrients for infant growth and development, it has been linked with infant hospitalizations and infections, childhood obesity, and lowered levels of, oh boy, I can't pronounce it, so I'll just say DHA, an important fatty acid related to brain development. Researchers wrote in NPJ Metabolic Health and Disease. Formula-fed infants are more likely to gain weight rapidly and in excess, a risk factor for childhood and adult overweight and obesity. Infants fed more infant formula than breast milk are also more likely to be overweight during older childhood and adolescence. Meanwhile, contaminants in formula may negatively influence neurodevelopment, which is brain, even when they're found at low levels. More proof that breast is best. Breastfeeding is associated with a lower risk of overweight and obesity. Children who are breastfed for more than 1 year are less likely to be overweight or obese between the ages of 6 and 16. Not only does exclusive breastfeeding prevent early introduction of foods that may trigger weight gain, but it also establishes healthy gut microbiome, which is key for lifelong health. According to the Global Breastfeeding Collective, breastfeeding helps populate the child's body with good bacteria from his or her mother, which provide protection against excessive weight gain. Breast milk contains hormones and other biological factors involved in the regulation of food intake that may help shape the long-term physiological processes responsible for maintaining energy balance. Feeding of infant formula by bottle may interfere with a child's recognition of satiety and thus lead to overeating. Further, the benefits continue into adulthood. One study found a 26% lower risk of becoming overweight or obese among adults who were breastfed. There are additional health benefits as well, including a lower risk of type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and cardiovascular disease as an adult. Breastfeeding also offers protection against allergies, enhanced immune system development, and a boost for brain development. Even partially breastfed babies experience a beneficial change in their metabiome or chemical makeup in the gut. That's good for brain development and may translate to better test scores at age 2. Risky surgery and prescription drugs advised for obese children. Come on. Instead of tackling the drivers of childhood obesity, the American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, gave a wholehearted endorsement for weight loss drugs and surgery in children as young as 12 and 13, respectively. Waiting doesn't work, co-author Dr. I can't pronounce it, Anelli told the Associated Press. What we see is a continuation of weight gain and the likelihood that they'll have obesity in adulthood. The AAP guidance recommends comprehensive treatment, which includes nutrition support, physical activity, behavioral therapy, medications, and metabolic and bariatric surgery. There is no evidence to support either watchful waiting or unnecessary delay of appropriate treatment of children with obesity, the guidance explains, instead setting the tone that early and aggressive drug, that's so weird, Lord showed up like that. There is no evidence to support either watchful waiting or unnecessary delay of appropriate treatment of children with obesity, the guidance explains, instead setting the tone that early and aggressive drug and surgical treatment is warranted. Further, the guidelines specifically state pediatricians and other primary health care providers should offer adolescents 12 years and older with obesity, BMI of 95th percentile or higher, weight loss pharmacotherapy as an adjutant to health behavior and lifestyle treatment. Pediatricians and other primary healthcare providers should offer referral for adolescents 13 and older with severe obesity, 120 or higher percent of the 95th percentile for age and sex for evaluation for metabolic and bariatric surgery. The AAP recommends the weight loss pill or Orlistat, Novo Nordisk's Wegovy, a diabetes drug given by injection, and the diabetes medicine metformin as potential obesity treatments in 12-year-olds and up. Each comes with its own set of risks. Orlistat can cause kidney and liver injury, along with gastrointestinal adverse effects such as oily stools, diarrhea, and abdominal pain, for instance. You want to put your child through that? I understand, parents, if you don't know this, because you're younger than me and you have been taught and you trusted. So I'm here to say, think for yourself. Be that critical thinker that is now an unpopular thing to be. but your life and your child's life depends on it. And get it through your head, please, I implore you. Wegovy, meanwhile, also caused gastrointestinal side effects, including nausea, vomiting, as well as concerns of pancreatitis, pancreatic cancer, and retinopathy complications, including hemorrhage and blindness. For your child, metformin side effects include a metabolic condition called lactic acidosis, which can be life-threatening. Subjecting children to surgery for weight loss is also egregious, as it can lead to permanent complications and even death. The AAP advice stopped short of recommended drugs or surgery for preschoolers, as few as the studies they reviewed included children under 5. According to the Duke University researchers, in the final recommendations, treatment options for children under age 6 include motivational interviewing, strong evidence, and intensive health, behavior, and lifestyle treatment, moderate evidence. None of the pharmacotherapy or surgical trials included in the CPG involved children less than 5 years old. It is unclear whether these options will or should ever be used among preschoolers. Tips for healthy weight in children. Positive. Part of the problem with conventional model for treating childhood obesity is that children receive flawed nutritional guidance focused on reducing saturated fats and other whole foods while promoting vegetable oils and heavily processed low-fat diets. When you consume an abundance of ultra-processed foods, it's not only a matter of taking in empty calories or too many calories that cause weight gain. It triggers a catastrophic cascade of health declines rooted in mitochondrial dysfunction and insulin resistance. Meanwhile, conventional nutritionists typically do not advise that increased intake of toxic industrially processed seed oils, often referred to as vegetable oils, and God forbid, canola oil, which is a rapeseed oil, are also driving obesity. Examples of seed oils high in omega-6 PUFAs, PUFAs include soybean, cottonseed, sunflower, canola, which is rapeseed, corn, and safflower. Omega-6 is considered to be pro-inflammatory because of the most common variety, linoleic acid, which will radically increase oxidative free radicals and cause mitochondrial dysfunction. As researchers noted in the journal Nutrients, in addition, a few studies suggested that omega-6 PUFAs is related to chronic inflammatory diseases such as obesity, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and cardiovascular disease. Reducing your child's intake of seed oils while increasing intake of healthy fats is a powerful way to support a healthy weight. Engaging in non-exercise movement throughout the day and getting regular exercise, will provide further benefits, as will avoiding obesogens in the environment, such as endocrine disrupting chemicals found in contaminated foods and food packaging. Providing infants a healthy start via breastfeeding is also important, but if your child is obese, a holistic practitioner who understands the underlying drivers of obesity can provide a comprehensive strategy for weight loss that doesn't involve drugs or surgery. I did not read this article before. I just now put it on here. My heart is really heavy that children are born into this world and have that as their future. Parents, I am not blaming you. You do not know, but if you have heard this podcast, or someone has passed this on to you, then you need to take responsibility. Not all is done, okay? You can recover, perhaps not as well, not as quickly. You may have some, or your child may have some issues, but at least you know that they have a chance in life. What do I eat? I do not go by what the status quo says. I have my own diet. Oh, the other day, what did I do? I posted a beautiful picture of what we ate. Organic roasted chicken, if I can pronounce this right, arborio rice, which has onion and wine in it, and cooked down, and it was so tasty. And then you add parsley to it at the end, and steamed asparagus. Oh, it was just, and no salt or anything on the asparagus. I had my protein, I had my vegetable, and I had my carb. And it was just so tasty. And I eat at least one organic egg, if not two, usually boiled, sometimes fried in butter, of course, organic butter. Sourdough bread, because sourdough bread is the only kind of bread that is relatively good for a diabetic. And I'm not diabetic, and I don't intend to be. My grandma died of complications of diabetes, amputations, and so I have a 4% genetic propensity for it. And of course, I play the game, and I refuse to have diabetes. Absolutely refuse it. If I eat too much sugar, and I have on occasion, because I've been a sugarholic all my life, and I was sick as a child, but I haven't had the flu since 1968. And at that time, I had my monthly and the flu, and I asked God to take my life. And of course, you can see that he didn't, because I have a purpose here. I have a purpose to educate you, all of you folks, that you can do better. And I know you can. And I'm so excited, because the world is going to be a better place because of people that put the information out there that you are not privy to. So anyway, I can get carried away talking away. So I am going to sign out and let you go on about your day. So I thank you for joining my Common Sense Living podcast today. And I certainly hope you learned something that will enlighten you or someone you love or care about. So I ask that you share this with a friend and subscribe, follow, and you can find me where podcasts are: Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple. YouTube doesn't like me because I tell the truth as I see it. And just like this article, I didn't make the article up. I read it, and so I shared it with you. So I hope you have a fantastic day, and I thank you for being part of mine today. So I can hardly wait to see you on the next one. So, toodaloo.
Thank you for tuning in to my Common Sense Living podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure you learned something new. Please leave a kind review and share this episode with a friend. And be sure to subscribe yourself. You'll find me on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. And don't forget, we'll be here again next week with another insightful episode of Common Sense Living. I can hardly wait.